మీరు ఈరోజు వీడియోలో ఏదైతే కంటెంట్ చూడబోతున్నారో ఇట్స్ ఏ మాస్టర్ క్లాస్ ఆన్ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్. మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్ మీద ఒక కామన్ ఇన్వెస్టర్ రీసెర్చ్ చేయాలంటే అంత ఈజీ కాదు. ఎందుకంటే మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ అనేది ఒక సెక్టర్కి సంబంధించింది కాదు, 1-2 సెక్టర్లు కాదు, అక్రాస్ సెక్టర్స్లో మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ అనేది ఉంటుంది కదా. సో అంత బిగ్గర్ థీమ్ మీద వర్క్ చేయాలంటే చాలా టైం కన్జ్యూమ్ చేస్తుంది. సో అందుకని కామన్ ఇన్వెస్టర్కి ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయాలంటే చాలా టఫ్ అవుతుంది. అలానే ఇగ్నోర్ చేయగలవా అంటే ఇగ్నోర్ చేయలేము. ఎందుకంటే మన ఇండియన్ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్లో సూపర్ సైకిల్ అయితే స్టార్ట్ అయింది. అండ్ రీసెంట్గా లాస్టిక్ పాలసీ ఏదైతే గవర్నమెంట్ అనౌన్స్ చేసిందో అది ఈ గ్రోత్కి ఇంకొంచెం బూస్టర్ ఇవ్వనున్నది. సో అందు గురించి ఈ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్లో మనం ఎటువంటి స్టాక్స్ మీద ఫోకస్ చేయాలి, ఎటువంటి స్టాక్స్ని ఇగ్నోర్ చేయాలన్న దాని మీద వర్క్ అయితే స్టార్ట్ చేసి మీకు ఇన్డెప్త్ డీటెయిల్స్ షేర్ చేద్దామని స్టార్ట్ చేసాం. కానీ మన టీమ్ సైజ్ చిన్నది ఉండడం వల్ల మాకు అర్థమైంది ఏంటంటే దీని మీద మేము మీకు ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ షేర్ చేసరికి ఇంకొంచెం బాగా డిలే అయిపోద్ది అనిపించి ఫిలిప్ క్యాపిటల్ నిషిత్ షా గారు లాస్ట్ టైం మనం ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేసాం కదా, ఆయనకు కాల్ చేసి రిక్వెస్ట్ చేశాను. ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళ రీసెర్చ్ టీమ్ చాలా పెద్దది అండ్ ఆల్రెడీ వీళ్ళు ఈ సెక్టర్ మీద చాలా రోజుల నుంచి వర్క్ చేస్తున్నారు, ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేశారు కూడా. సో ఈ సెక్టర్ రిలేటెడ్ వాళ్ళ దగ్గర ఉన్న ఫుల్ ఫ్లెజ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఏదైతే ఉంటుందో మా సబ్స్క్రైబర్స్తో షేర్ చేయమని రిక్వెస్ట్ చేశాను. ఎక్స్క్లూజివ్లీ ఆయన మన గురించి అని ఒక ఫుల్ ఫ్లెజ్ కంటెంట్ అయితే ప్రిపేర్ చేసి షేర్ చేశారు. ఈ వీడియోని ఆల్రెడీ రికార్డ్ చేశాను కాబట్టి చెప్తున్నాను, డోంట్ మిస్ ఇట్. ఎందుకంటే ఇట్స్ ఏ సూపర్ సైకిల్. ఈ సూపర్ సైకిల్లో వీ కెన్ మేక్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ మనీ. బట్ అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం ఈ సైకిల్ ప్లే చేయాలంటే ఇది ఐటీ ఫార్మాలా కాదు. ఈ సైకిల్ ప్లే చేయాలంటే ఎటువంటి స్టాక్స్ని ఇగ్నోర్ చేయాలో కూడా తెలియాలి అండ్ ఏ టైంలో ఎగ్జిట్ అవ్వాలో కూడా తెలియాలి. సో అలాంటి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ మొత్తం ఈ వీడియోలో దొరుకుతున్నది. అండ్ ఈ వీడియో చూసినప్పుడు నిషిత్ షా గారు ఎక్స్క్లూజివ్ మన గురించి వర్క్ చేశారు కాబట్టి మీకు హెల్ప్ఫుల్ అయింది. ఎందుకంటే ఇది అంత ఈజీ పని కాదు. మేము ఫుల్ ఫ్లెజ్డ్ ఈక్విటీ మార్కెట్స్ మీద డే ఇన్ డే అవుట్ వర్క్ చేసి మాకే చాలా టైం పడుతుందని అర్థమైపోయింది. వర్క్ చేసినప్పుడు అండర్స్టాండ్, ఒక కామన్ ఇన్వెస్టర్ వర్క్ చేయాలంటే చాలా టైం పడుతుంది కదా. ఆ టైంని అయితే ఈ కంటెంట్ ద్వారా ఆయన చాలా వరకు రెడ్యూస్ చేశారు. మీకు హెల్ప్ఫుల్ అయింది అనిపించినప్పుడు థ్యాంక్ హిమ్. ఎందుకంటే చాలా మంచి డీప్ వర్క్ ఇది. అండ్ అలాగే ఇలాంటి కంటెంట్ జనరల్లీ ఒక పెయిడ్ వెబినార్స్ ద్వారానే షేర్ చేస్తుంటారు. మన ఛానల్లో ఫ్రీగా అవైలబుల్గా ఉంటుంది. వీడియో చూసిన వాళ్ళకి మా నుంచి ఒక చిన్న రిక్వెస్ట్, ఇలాంటి కంటెంట్ మీ బ్యాక్ టు బ్యాక్ తీసుకురావాలంటే మాకు ఎనర్జీ ఇచ్చేది మీరు ఇచ్చే లైక్స్ మాత్రమే. వీడియో చూసిన ప్రతి ఒక్కళ్ళు లైక్ చేయడానికి అయితే ప్రయత్నించండి. చాలామంది వీడియో చూస్తారు కానీ లైక్ చేయరు. మిస్ అవ్వకుండా లైక్ చేయడానికి ప్రయత్నించండి గైస్. లైక్ చేయడం వల్ల మాకు ఇంకొంచెం బూస్ట్ వస్తుంది. ఎందుకంటే వీడియో ఇంకొంచెం పెట్టిన ఎఫర్ట్ ఇంకొంచెం ఎక్కువ మందికి యూట్యూబ్ చూపిస్తుంది అంతే. అవి లైక్ చేయడం వల్ల మాకేం డబ్బులు రావు, ఎక్కువ మందికి రీచ్ అవుతుంది. ఎఫర్ట్ ఇంకొంచెం మళ్ళీ పెట్టాలనిపిస్తుంది అన్నమాట. సో ఐ నీడ్ దట్ సపోర్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ యూ గైస్. అండ్ ఇంకొక చిన్న విషయం, నిషిత్ షా గారికి తెలుగు రాదు కాబట్టి కాన్వర్సేషన్ ఇంగ్లీష్లో ఉంటుంది. ఎవరికైనా తెలుగులో ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ కావాలనుకున్నట్టయితే మొత్తం ఇంటర్వ్యూ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత నేను తెలుగులో మీకు సమ్మరీ రూపంలో షేర్ చేస్తాను. మీకు అక్కడ కంప్లీట్ సమ్మరీ అయితే దొరుకుతుంది. సో తెలుగు వాళ్ళకి లాస్ట్లో ఆ డీటెయిల్స్ కూడా దొరుకుతాయి. లెట్ మీ బ్రింగ్ నిషిత్ షా గారు నౌ. హాయ్ నిషిత్, ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ థ్యాంక్స్ అ లాట్ ఫర్ టేకింగ్ అవుట్ యువర్ టైమ్. I'm sure today my viewers will get a lot of information about manufacturing sector. You have specially worked for us. Thanks a lot from bottom of my heart. I'm sure my subscribers also will love it and they're going to thank you for this. Thank you. Let's start the session.
Thanks, Sayan. Thanks, Manipurs, for again inviting me. So today, of course, as you rightly said, that we are going to talk about manufacturing slash old economy slash engineering and industrial sector. We had touched upon this particular sector in the last time when we had spoken with you and your subscribers. So today I thought that, okay, why not dwell a little bit deeper in this particular sector, because it's in a lot of talks in the markets as well. And we particularly are very bullish on it as well. So I've made a small presentation. Yeah, so I will take you through that presentation and then maybe we can have a Q&A session. So Sai, of course, looking at this has got nothing to do with the Transformer movie. Yeah, the poster. I thought that this was apt kind of a thing because this entire sector has not done well over the last 8 to 10 years. So I thought that this would be a kind of a good kind of a tagline as well, Revenge of the Fallen. Okay. So what we'll try to do, we'll first try to understand the intricacy of this sector and then what had happened in the previous cycle and how to look at this particular sector. So
Okay.
this is basically the pillars of an economy. So this is like economics 101. Okay. So there are basically 4 pillars of an economy. There's government consumption, government capex, private consumption, and private capex. Okay. So the first 2 pillars, the government consumption and government capex, it is more related to the government. It depends how much push they are doing, how much is the budget allocation and all those things. Private consumption, of course, you know that the demographics of the country are such that this consumption story is going to be there. But it is actually private capex, okay? And when private capex cycle picks up, then that is the time a lot of job gets created. See, when it is
Yes.
only private consumption or government capex or something, only few particular sectors or few particular industries get benefit. That is what actually we had seen from 2016 to 2020, wherein only few stocks and few particular sectors were doing well, kind of a thing, because private capex had not picked up. So when private capex picked up, it not only leads to job creation across the kind of the breadth of the country, but it also leads to a lot of wealth effect. Yeah, and it gives a boost to the entire kind of right from the richest person to the lowest kind of strata of the economy as well. Yeah. So that is why private capex is so much important kind of a thing. So now what is the scope of manufacturing in India? Okay. So today, as of today, manufacturing is close to around 14 to 16% of the GDP, which is
Okay.
very admissible. If you compare with countries like Vietnam, Mexico, of course, that the number is very high, and they have done well over the last 15 to 20 years to double those numbers as well. Okay. Now, of course, government has also realized that if Indian economy has to do well. Of course, your IT, your chemicals, and all those things has done well, will do well. But if the overall economy has to do well, then manufacturing has to do well. And that is why we are seeing a lot of push from the government. Either it is Piyush Goyal or maybe Nitin Gadkari talking about infrastructure, railways, or roads, and all those things. So the target is to increase the contribution from 15% to 25%. And if this happens, of course, you have to take the numbers by a little bit of pinch of salt, because 25% going to from 15% to 25% is going to be a hurricane task. But
Yes.
even if able to achieve 50, 60, 70% of what has been targeted, we have a very long rope in next 8 to 10 years. And of course, this is if your sector grows by that much, the contribution grows by individual companies and all those things can grow much much faster, kind of a thing. So that this is the biggest scope in India today, as of I would say that is the manufacturing sector. If we play our cards well today, in fact, I am not sure if your subscribers also would have seen Mr. Uday Kotak's statement, wherein he talks that India is at a cusp, kind of a thing, given the geopolitical situation world over. If we play our cards well, then sky is the limit. We'll immediately grow from a developing country to a developed country as well in next 5 to 10 years. So I will not Sai. Of course, I'll keep on using old economy, manufacturing,
Hmm. Hmm.
engineering kind of interchangeably. So what does this old economy sector constitutes of? So of course, your capital goods, metals and minings, engineering, industrial, cements, real estate, defense, railway, infrastructure, auto, and all. So anything that has basically to got to do with manufacturing of creating of new things, this is what I would subscribe them to an old economy sector, kind of a thing. Now, what we need to understand is why this particular sector was a laggard over last 8 to 10 years. So we had seen the super cycle that was from 2003 to 2008, and then maybe a
Yes.
little bit of an upcycle in 2011 as well. But overall, last 10, 15 years have 12 years have been very, very difficult for this particular sector. So there are few reasons. Of course, one, this sector is cyclical in nature. So after the big bull, we also saw a little bit of a sideways and a maybe downward kind of a thing. What had happened in the previous cycle, there was unnecessary kind of expansion, taking on huge debt kind of a thing by the corporates. And say, suppose the capacity, they increased from 100 to 2000 kind of thing. So that was 28 kind of a capacity expansion few of the companies did, which was mindless. But of course, this happens in every cycle. Of course,
Yes.
today the companies have kind of got very sane, but when the cycle is at the peak, how investors also behave, that is how the
Yes.
corporates also behave, kind of a thing. So there
True.
was huge debt taken. Of course, because of few scams, kind of thing, there was a complete policy paralysis. If you recollect during the
Yes.
previous dispensation, then of course there were certain new rules, regulations, laws which came into place like GST, RERA, demonetization, which though overall they were good for the economy, but it derailed or maybe delayed the kind of growth that was likely to come. Then, of course, there was a cleanup in the entire banking cycle. Banks were very, very, very of lending it to the corporates, because in the previous cycle, they had seen many going NPA. Okay. And of course, over last few years, the focus was more on new age companies and everything. So what was the thing over last 10 years? It was always a story of abhi sher aayega. Yeah? If you recollect
Hmm.
that how that boy
Yes.
keeps on saying
Hmm.
sher aaya kind of
Hmm.
thing. So last 10 years, we have constantly keep on hearing, "Arey nahi, abhi next the whole economy will bounce back," kind of a thing. So this is what why was it a laggard? So what is the secret of a super capex cycle? This is very necessary for us to understand. And I particularly feel right now, all of them are in place kind of a thing. So one, of course, you need the government push. Without the government push, your capex cycle can't put. Yeah, so they
True.
are the ones who would start initially kind of thing. And then, of course, they'll also push industry by reducing taxes, giving incentives like PLIs and all those schemes, which will give the push. Then there will be multiple growth triggers. So right now, if you want just to understand, see, there's China plus one. Now Europe plus one has also started kind of a thing. Overall, there has been a kind of a export-led theme is also going on. So there's a multiple triggers right now in place. Okay, general confidence of the industrialist. So this is also very, very necessary kind of a thing. That the confidence level of the industrialist should be high. Then only they'll invest into further capacity expansion, which was
True.
missing over last 8 to 10 years. But recently, we have seen over last 6 months, 1 year, that many industries, many corporates have started announcing huge capex plans and all those things. So that is again one of the very important ingredient. Okay. Then what? Another thing is industry consolidation. Over last few years, what we have seen, many of the guys who are not capable or maybe who could not survive, they have closed down. There has been a consolidation. So this forms a base of the, because what happens when there are many players? Okay, then there is margin erosion kind of thing. When there are few players, it helps in the margins as well. Capacity utilizations are at a reasonable level. Of course, we have reached a decade high of around 70-72%. But again, of course, if you compare the previous cycle, we had gone up to 90% as well. Bank credit growth has bounced back. There's less leverage today. Okay, what we had seen. So to start with, of course, again at the peak of the cycle, we will see a maximum leverage as well in amongst the corporate. But to start with, this is the secret ingredient, or maybe what are the pillars that are required for the super capex cycle. So I particularly feel that all of them are in place. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Now it is no longer share aayega, it is share aa gaya kind of thing. Okay. Of course, we
Okay.
waited for Mr. Kohli's century for almost 3 years. We waited for the this manufacturing sector to bounce back for last 8 to 10 years. So it is now no longer share aayega kind of thing. Share aa gaya hai, it is here kind of thing. It is in front of us. If you guys talk to any of your friends or family who are there in manufacturing sector, they, all of them will vouch that things have started picking up kind of a thing. Yeah. So just yeah, it is form is temporary, class is permanent kind of a thing. Yeah. So this is again something which I wanted to highlight. But okay, of course, there are many concerns. So there are
Okay.
concerns. There's a recession in USA or Europe, rising interest rate, commodity prices, inflation. So again, if we have to go back in the previous cycles, what had happened in the previous cycle? Okay, so from 2003 to 2008, we had all these things in place. In fact, I would say this rising interest rate, commodity prices, inflation is one of the outcomes or maybe one of the ingredient that is also required for the super capex cycle to play out kind of a thing. So of course there would be volatility because of few of these reasons, but again I would not say that this cycle will not do well in next 5 to 7 years. Supremely bullish on it. Of course Europe is in a shambles kind of thing, that I agree, but USA I think they might have a mild recession or something. But again, rather than focusing on the macro picture, what I would like each of one of you is to try to focus on individual companies rather than focusing on
Okay.
that, because the more you focus on macros you get lost kind of thing. And see, since I've started my career, yeah, I've seen each year there are multiple new things. Sai, you would have also seen, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
every
There are
time there
many
is a new
issues.
story, there's a new concern. So I'm not
True.
saying that ignore it kind of thing, be cognizant of it, but try to focus more on individual companies rather than okay, ये इधर ऐसा हुआ, ये ऐसा हुआ kind of a thing. So now what to look out for into companies and what to avoid. So when you're picking up a stock, okay, what to look and what to avoid. Again, there are more than 100 ways to make money in the markets, of course, and each one will have their own way. This is my way kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So the
Last
first thing,
last presentation you covered many of the ways.
yeah,
Yes.
of course. So again, so first I'll try to cover what to avoid. Okay. So try
Okay.
to avoid companies which are only kind of dependent on government policies and government push alone. Okay. So that's why I try to avoid PSUs, defense, companies that are only dependent on railway orders or something. Again, as I told you, this is the investment philosophy that we follow. People who would have different kind of a view, but this is what our viewers. Okay, so this is what we avoid. Wherein there's a too much of government policy driven kind of a revenue led, then that is what we avoid kind of thing. The second thing is many people try to dig deeper. Arey, Siemens or ABB बहुत महंगा हो गया. Okay, let's try dig deeper. get a new value stock which is trading at a sub 10, some 100 rupees kind of a thing. So please avoid that. You will always get stuck into stocks like that. Once the cycle turns around, or maybe if that company does not do well or something, you will be stuck with it. The another thing is to avoid the next L&Ts, next HDFCs. Whenever anyone says that, please avoid that stock. Yeah, so this is again because otherwise you will get stuck. In few of my other slides, I have also given examples of what has happened to those next stories. So try to avoid that. Then high debt companies, again, see, infrastructure is a play wherein debt is required.
Yes.
So, but little reasonable debt, maybe 1:1, 1:1, 1.2 is fine. But try to avoid companies which have got high debt on the thing. The another thing is try to avoid companies which their revenues are dependent on global pricing, means metals, mining, okay, crude related. So because of global things, so what I would want you to is try to focus on India, because that is much more simpler and easier to understand kind of a thing. See, you don't know what is happening globally, how to track of it as well. So try to avoid those companies. Now coming to the what to look out for is, of course, one is first is the management. In this particular sector, management plays the most important role. Other than any other sector, here is where management is the most important thing. Without, if you have any little bit of doubt as well, please do not invest into that particular stock. Again, see, the structure of the companies in this sector is such that managements will have to be a little bit dilly-dally. See, in Gujarati, there is a saying, "Kolsani dalali karo to hath kada thase." Means if you are in the business of coal, your hands are going to get dirty. Okay. So yeah, so that is the sector kind of thing that wherein the managements tend to be, because there's a lot of cash dealings and all those things, in particular in infrastructure sectors. So try to avoid those companies. There's so many companies. Okay. So management. Second thing is the leadership. Try to avoid in the top 2 or 3 players. Don't try to again go down kind of a thing. Say suppose when I talk about bearings, try to avoid in Schaeffler's, the best of the bearing companies out there, rather than the ones below the curve kind of thing. Yeah.
Try to avoid.
I'm saying that try to avoid, invest into top 2 or 3 companies, leaders in that sector. Try to
Got it.
avoid the companies which are below kind of a thing. Yeah?
Got
So
it.
SKF, Schaefflers of the world kind of thing. That is where you should look at, rather than trying to be very smart and okay investing into smaller companies kind of a thing. Okay? So another thing that one needs to look at is strong balance sheets. See, whenever you are investing to capital goods and infrastructure companies, they need to have strong balance sheets, especially their working capital management should be good. Their working capital, they should have enough capital as well. So because what happens when the cycle plays out, you need a lot of working capital to process those orders and everything. Their balance should be strong enough to play across those entire order book kind of a thing. So that is another very important parameter. The another thing is there should be multiple levers for that particular stock or sector. When I say multiple levers, I mean that that particular company should not only depend on, okay, this particular company's fortune are dependent only on auto sector. Okay, so let's take an example of Schaeffler, for example. Okay, Schaeffler, of course, it has got auto, it has got engineering, they're getting into EVs kind of a thing. So there should be multiple levers. Now the global management of Schaeffler wants to make India as the manufacturing hub kind of a thing. So there's an export potential as well. So that is where multiple levers are needed. So when you are dependent on one particular growth lever, what will happen is, if that does not play out, say suppose if auto sector does not do well, then your stock might not do well kind of thing. So that is what you need to look at. Another very important thing in this particular sector, see, of course, generally we say that, okay, buy and hold kind of a thing, okay, buy and forget kind of a thing. But in this particular sector, you also need to decide when to sell. Because if you have gone through this, if you have been very stringent with your stock picking, so what will happen? Your capital destruction will not happen, but for a few years, 5, 7 years, you will not make much money. So though you will feel very happy that, okay, you are holding a great stock, but that stock would not move for next 5, 8, 7 years kind of a thing. So that is why sell decision is also very important. Again, I will take you through live examples wherein we have kind of experience to help you make you understand better. Okay. Then the P is actually not the correct barometer to look at this sector when you are starting at the start of this. So suppose these right now, if you look at only P multiple, you would find a rates very expensive, 40 times, 50 times. Okay. But when the cycle turnarounds, yeah, the revenues goes up, the P multiples, if the PA multiples in fact expand kind of a thing. So that is
Actually, I just want to add one point for all the viewers. any cyclical sector, when actual cycle turns start towards positive trend, okay, the PE looks very expensive because their past earnings will not be so
Yeah,
sexy. Okay,
perfect.
when they really get their real earnings, actually the PE will start coming down. And actually, what there is a saying that when we are investing in a cyclical company, we should invest when the PE is high, we should exit when the PE is low. That is
Perfect.
at the peak of the cycle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could able to remember that statement.
Yeah, correctly put it, kind of thing. Yes, and of course, lastly, you'll need patience. Yeah, that is another very important ingredient when you're investing into this particular sector. So
And
now,
Nishit, you will look into large companies only, right? In each, say, manufacturing is a vast sector. In a, like, for example, if you take bearings companies, in that you will look into top one to two players rather than going into down
of course. So
and
what?
bottom
Yeah.
up
So that
companies.
is what I was saying. Yeah,
Mm,
try to invest into companies which are the leaders of that particular sector. Okay, rather than going down the curve, kind of a thing. So because that is, see, in this particular segment, what happens, unlike other all sectors, there are few companies which have been there since donkey years. Okay, see, Schaefflers, SKFs of the world. Okay, there have been Timkins of the world, have they have been there since last 10, 20, 30 years, kind of thing. Okay, so yeah, and no new players would join. Say suppose today Adani would not get into this particular sector, but because again it's a very small sector. And once what happens in this particular sector, once you develop a relationship with a OEM or something, they are very unlikely to change it, because though
true.
this, say suppose bearings, this form a very small part of the overall car or maybe engineering piece or something, but they're very crucial, kind of a thing. So that's why
True.
OEM players do not want to take a chance, kind of a thing. Okay. So unlike, say, we suppose plastic pipes or something, wherein, okay, today you buy an Astel, tomorrow you might buy a Supreme or maybe something else. Of course, there are certain modes,
Mm.
but there it is, okay, it's a little bit an easier decision, kind of a thing. But with OEMs, they would not change their vendors, and all these companies have been there since last many, many years. Their balance sheets are very strong. The other smaller companies have either died down or maybe they're on verge of closing down. So that's why it becomes more imperative to invest into the leaders. Okay. But again,
And
see,
there will be technological edge as well,
of
right?
course, the
Certain
technological edge
companies.
because of the global parentage and all those things. That's all.
True. And regulatory edge also, there are certain companies like if you talk
Yeah,
about KSB,
of course.
they are the only one who got approved to supply nuclear
Yeah.
pumps. So
Yeah.
there are certain companies who has that regulatory edge because of the product superiority.
Sure. Now, say suppose in case of KSB, yeah, so of course they are the
Hmm.
only ones who can say suppose if a nuclear power plant is getting set up in India, they are the only ones who can supply. Again, their
True.
pumps form a very small part of it, but it's a very crucial kind of action that they do. Or maybe for Thermex,
Hmm.
whenever they are doing a power plant or something, they'll 70% market share is with KSB, is because for FGD pumps, KSB is the market leader. Though it forms a very small part, but Thermex would not like to take a chance with any other smaller company, kind of a thing.
True.
So now what I would like to take you through few of the examples, okay? So maybe 4, 5 case studies. So I thought that
Perfect.
this will help, kind of thing, and better to
Yeah, yeah, this will
understand
help a lot. Yes.
yeah. So the first is Punj Lloyd. Yeah? So Punj Lloyd
Hmm.
was supposed to be the next L&T. Okay.
Hmm.
Of course, there was a time wherein it did very well. The stock went up by 400, 450%. So then the stock is down by 98%. Okay. So
Hmm.
guys, please do not get into this narrative, kind of a thing, that this is the next L&T. Please look at the management. If you go back, of course, I am not saying that anyone would have sold at the peak of the kind of a thing, because everyone kind of gets into the wagon, kind of a thing. Okay. But there are clear signs when the downfall started. There are clear signs. But what happens when the downfall starts? अरे यार, ये इतना 400 रुपए में था, अभी 200 हो गया, अभी तो टाइम लेने का है, 100 हो गया, अरे टाइम टू
Hmm.
एवरेज, 10 रुपया हो गया, अरे दिस इज मुफ्त है, मतलब काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग, हाँ अभी नहीं लेंगे तो कभी लेंगे, काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. Try to avoid this thing. See, again, L&T has not done much, but at least since
Hmm.
you are in a good stock, 8, 10 years, the stock did not do well, did not give you
You're
great.
not lost money.
Yeah, but you have not lost money. Yeah, but you lost 98% of your capital. Okay.
Hmm.
The second thing is stocks like Reliance Communications, Suzlon, Aban Offshores. Okay. So I always keep on talking about long term investment. Okay. So I met an
Mm.
investor recently. He said that I am also long-term investor, but I've not made money. Then I looked at his portfolio. So he had Reliance Communications, Suzlon, JP Associate, Apan Offshores, Unitex of the world. And he said that मैंने भी long-term investment किया, but I have not made money. Okay, so that is why what the sell decision is also quite important, especially in cyclical stocks, cyclical sectors
True,
we are investing into. Again,
true.
yeah, and all of them had clear signs. I am not saying that this was you would be able to sell, but even if someone was able to sell out
Mm.
here, they would have been much
Mm.
better. Yeah,
Mm.
the stocks are
Mm.
down 98, 90, maybe Aban. I don't think so if it's even trading kind of a thing. Yeah.
True.
So that is what we need to be aware of. Okay. So please do not get into narrative. Please do not dig deeper. That is what I was also talking in the previous slide.
Yes.
Now, these are a few of the next two, three stocks are the stocks that wherein we had invested into our PMS and
Mm.
what happened to them and why we bought or why we sold or kind of thing. Okay. So
Mm.
GMM Pfaudler. Okay. So
Mm.
GMM Pfaudler is one stock wherein we are the first ones to enter this particular company. We had invested around 400, 450. Okay. Why we invested? Because chemical sector was doing very well. China, because of the pollution reasons, a lot of industry was shutting down in China, shifting to India. Okay. My analyst was very gungo about chemical companies. But for me, it was a little bit complex. So I thought that rather than investing into any chemical companies, let us invest into a stock which will benefit because of the this capex cycle.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
So we looked at many companies, ABB, Siemens, L&Ts of the world, but for them, this particular segment, chemical segment, was very small part of the overall revenue. Okay, so that is where we invested into the stock. The stock did very well. Okay, and yeah, we sold at around this level. So we started selling the stock at around 5,000 rupees till 6,000 rupees. In fact, after it went down, we sold at that time as well. Okay.
Mm.
One of the reasons I would say luck played a very big reason for us to buy at the right price and sell at the right price. 99% of the time, you do not get both of them right. We are very
Yes.
lucky, especially in GMM Fodler, and you have to be very upfront about it. That, okay, you are lucky, luck played an important role because otherwise it's
Yes.
very. But what led us because there was a lot of frenzy for this stock. See,
Mm.
we did not have any doubt about the capability of the company to do those orders and everything, but there were many kind of people started talking about this company a lot. So, at one of the philosophies at Philip Capital PMS is we do not like to invest into stocks wherein there's a lot of chatter. Okay.
Okay.
So a lot of HNI started getting onto it. The management started coming on TV every week,
Mm.
kind of a thing. So which was a kind of a little bit of a surprise for us as well, kind of thing. And of course, then the big announcement happened wherein they
Mm.
wanted to buy out their parent
Mm.
company. So of course, we had sold out of 2, 3 weeks before that. Of course, we are still holding 50% of the quantity. But once that announcement came, we held down for some time and then we exited that stock completely. So this
Okay.
is what you need to do as well. Selling decision is also quite important kind of a thing. The second is TD Power. Okay. Again, we invested in this company in early 2016. Great company, good management, cash on their balance sheet. They had a tie-up with General Electricals. Okay. But what happened, unfortunately, at that time, Mr. Trump came to power. Okay,
Mm.
and General Electrical was supposed to transfer a lot of their orders to TD Power. And the factory that was there, it was in Mr. Trump's constituency, kind of thing. And he
Mm.
did not allow that thing. So we waited for a few quarters, kind of thing. In fact, we waited for almost 2 years, kind of a thing, to exit. Say that ab share aayega, but it never happened. And but we thought that okay, it's time to kind of exit this particular stock. It does not make sense. We are losing a lot of other opportunities in that particular the few years we had few other opportunities. That's why we exited that stock. Okay, so it was so you buy a stock, but if your theme is not playing out, okay, of course you give it
Mm.
some time, 1 quarter, two
Mm.
quarter, three
Mm.
quarter. Okay, if the
Mm.
results are improving and if the market
Mm.
is not appreciating, then of course you hold on.
Then fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
but if results are also not coming in and if market is also not appreciating, it is telling you something as well. Okay, so then that
Yes.
is the time to exit. Another thing is Grindwell. So again, we
Mm.
got into this particular stock in early 2016. Okay,
Mm.
see here also something like TD Power. For next 2 to 3 years, we held on to the stock. But
Mm.
why? What was the difference between Grindwell and TD Power was in Grindwell the results were improving, the balance sheet was improving. Okay, the sectors which were kind of contributing to TD Power Grindwell's revenue, they were improving kind of thing, and they had a better future prospect. That's why we held on to Grindwell. Okay,
Mm.
and of course, in last 2, 3 years, the stock has kind of gone up 3, 4x. So we held on the stock for 4 years. The stock is up by 4 to 5x kind
Now,
of.
what was your thesis behind buying Grindwell?
So it was very
For an
clear.
investor to analyze.
So it was very clear they are the market leaders in abrasive, good management, strong balance sheet. The industry was not doing well in the previous 4 5 years, kind of a thing. We thought that now was the time that industry would start doing well. It is better. Sometimes it is better to be early into any stock as well. We did not know
Okay.
when the sector would or the company would turn around. But what was happening, they were gaining a lot of market share from smaller players and everything, and they were getting into newer segments and everything. In this few years, they did a lot of innovations. They got introduced new products, they introduced new clients, they kind of expanded the kind of revenue share in existing clients. So a lot of those
Hmm.
things were happening. And that is why we thought that okay, this is a great stock to be into.
Got it.
Analysis of the previous cycle. So this is the super cycle
Hmm.
2003 to kind of 2008. Then of course there was a
Hmm.
big fall. Then there was a mini
Hmm.
up cycle wherein people
Hmm.
felt that okay, now the sector has turned on, but in the last 8, 10 years, 12 years, sector has not done anything kind of a thing. So now is the
Okay.
time, okay, for it to do well. So what exactly led to the previous bull cycle? Okay. So for the
Hmm.
capital goods as a sector, the revenue for the sector went up by 350% in that particular cycle. The PAT
Awesome.
went up by 600%. Okay. The cash flows improved by 250%. The DII holding at the peak was 15%. FI holding was 12%. So currently the DI holding is what, around 7 to 8%. FI holding is around 3%. Market
Okay.
percentage of the market cap of the capital goods at that time was 7%. Right now it is around 2.5 to 3%. That is where a lot of scope is there. So of course
Okay.
we also need to repeat similar kind of a numbers.
Hmm.
And we can see over last 6 months, 1 year, we have seen numbers of ABB, Siemens, guys like Thermex. A lot of these
Hmm.
companies have started reporting good numbers. So what did the stocks do? So I also keep getting stocks have already moved up 2x kind of a thing. Okay,
Hmm.
should we
Hmm.
invest or no? Okay, but let's
Hmm.
look at what did they do in the previous cycle. This was,
Hmm.
of course, I have just taken out few examples, but this
Hmm.
was across the entire sector.
Hmm.
Siemens, the PAT growth in that particular cycle went up by 5.2x, but the
Hmm.
stock price went up by 16x. Okay, kind of a thing. For Thermex, the PAT
Okay.
growth was 6.5x, but the market cap growth was 16.5x. Okay,
Superb.
for ABB, it was 4.4, it was 6. If you look at other companies like SKF, if you look at Schaeffler, if you look at Thermex, Voltam, okay, ESAB India, across all of them, you'd find this kind of a thing. Okay, so what
Hmm.
it is, so there's a lot of picture abhi baki. With this is just we are only at the start of the cycle kind of thing. Okay, but
Hmm.
you have to be into the right stock. And generally,
Hmm.
another thing that you try to be into invest into stocks which are consumable in nature. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Elaborate it.
Yeah. Say suppose for example, you can either invest into a transformer, okay, kind of
Hmm.
a thing. So that is like a one time, okay. Okay, एक बार transformer डाल दिया, next 8 10 साल kind of thing, you would not get a
Hmm.
new order from the same. But say suppose
Correct.
you invest into a company like a pump or maybe welding rods, okay. So
Hmm.
now welding machines, okay, or maybe abrasives like grind. So those are
Hmm.
like consumables that you okay, एक बार वो machine डाला, but this all things, the belts, okay, this
Hmm.
all things you need to change on a regular basis. So that demand is there kind of a thing. So the cycle
Correct.
for consumables would be longer in nature. Okay. So
Hmm.
that is again, this is what we look at kind of a thing. So because we feel that the demand is more structural in nature in this particular cycle. Otherwise, what if you put a huge transformer or so you put up a huge equipment, okay, that is a huge order. You get it one time, but then for a few years that same customer is not going to give you a repeat order. Okay.
True.
But if you are in the consumables, then that orders are repeatable in nature. And though they are a very small part of his, but he's not going to take chance, kind of thing. For suppose
Correct.
for belts or something, welding rods or something, they are not going to take chance, kind of a thing. Okay. Of course, the another thing is patience. Believe in India story. Believe in this manufacturing story. It is going to do well, kind of a thing. But at the same time, Sai, what I have also seen that you need to diversify. You can't be
Hmm.
100% into manufacturing sector. Okay, so that
True.
is again one thing I would like your subscribers also to kind of diversify. There's so many other
Hmm.
industries, of course, IT, there's chemical, there's consumption. So try to have a put in all the themes. Of course, don't over diversify and invest into 10 to 12 sectors, but at least 3 to 4 top sectors, banking kind of a thing. So that will bode well for you because what will happen, all sectors don't do well at the same time. Okay, there would be sectors
True.
which would do right now. So what your portfolio would give you more consistent returns in nature. So this is what I
Perfect.
wanted to talk about. Of course, there's a disclaimer. I've given a lot of forward-looking statements, but of course, guys, there's no assurance guarantee. there would be a lot of biasness because we would have invested in this particular theme, sector, stock kind of thing. So please do your due diligence before you invest into any of the stocks or sector. Yeah.
Perfect. Nishit, I have few questions.
Sure, of course.
Let's stop the presentation. For a common investor, manufacturing is a vast thing. If it is IT, okay, there is a clear picture. I need to focus here. If it is a
Yeah.
pharma, I need to focus here. These are the set of
Yeah.
companies. But manufacturing is textile, maybe manufacturing hoga. Okay,
Yeah, of course.
bearings hoga. There are certain every sector
Yeah,
will have
it's a
manufacturing.
huge, yeah. It's a huge.
Huge.
Everything
Okay,
is manufacturing. Apart from maybe IT to some extent, everything
true,
else is cement is manufacturing, paints is manufacturing,
true,
plastic pipes, steel pipes, everything is manufacturing.
true.
So as we are talking side,
Hmm.
so what one needs to focus is the area of competency. Okay. What is the area of competency? Second is what to avoid. And that is what we spoke about
Yes.
in one slide as well. So
Hmm.
first thing, rather than to decide where to invest, one needs to
Hmm.
kind of see where not to invest. Okay.
Hmm.
And that is where you'll kind of break it down to smaller number of companies. Yeah? Otherwise, the close to, of course, people say there are 5,000 listed companies. Yeah, kind of thing. I don't believe that. Yeah, but if you go to see your universe kind of a thing, there are only 1,000 odd companies. Okay. So from
Hmm.
1,000 odd companies, once you decide upon, okay, this, I don't want to invest into PSUs. I don't want to
Hmm.
invest into companies which have got more than 2x, 3x debt kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Okay. I
Hmm.
don't want to invest into companies wherein the promoter holding is less than 40%.
Hmm.
So that way you would be able to select your stocks in a better way.
Okay. And as per you, which all actually themes in manufacturing sector has a traction building up?
So I particularly see a lot of consumables again, which we spoke about. Okay, that
Okay.
is see actually what is happening right now. All the manufacturing across everywhere. Okay, be it infrastructure, capital goods, engineering. Okay, power. All of them, railways. All of them are doing quite well, kind of a thing. Okay, but
Okay.
again, if we have to invest into stocks, kind of things, subsectors, then we'll have to kind of look into stocks where managements are good, okay, and they're more consumable in nature. Okay, so that is
Consumable
what
in nature examples. It's not recommendation. Examples like
yeah,
Grindwell, Carborundum
yeah,
Universe.
yeah. So sectors
Okay.
like bearings, pumps,
Hmm.
companies
Hmm.
that are into belts, they're into fasteners, they're into auto ancillarities. Okay, so
Perfect.
these are the companies I would batteries. Okay, so these are the companies that
Okay.
sectors that I would like one to look at.
Okay. Which all sectors you want to avoid? See, in manufacturing, there are certain sectors which, even if there is a traction, there could be a short-term cycle, but there is a lot of risk. Which
Yeah.
all sectors you want to?
So the power is one. Okay. That
Okay.
so that is what we'd like to avoid again because it is completely driven by government policies. So that is one
Okay.
particular sector
Perfect.
we would like to avoid. Then there is railways again, which we would
Hmm.
like to avoid. Okay.
Hmm.
Then another sector that we would like to avoid is infrastructure. Infrastructure
Hmm.
again, great. Okay,
Hmm.
sector, but the companies out there because of the structure of that business, okay, a
Hmm.
lot of cash handling, a lot of other
Hmm.
things which are not pretty. So that is why we would
Hmm.
like to see what happens at the end of the day. We are custodians of the investor money.
Hmm.
Client
Hmm.
is putting
Hmm.
a lot of trust into us. So
Hmm.
as such, we are taking a risk by investing into equity. Okay.
Hmm.
So that is why we have to be extra careful, kind of thing, by the why what kind of companies that you are investing into. Okay. So again, someone would say, "अरे यार ये सब जाने दो, खराब सेक्टर में सबसे खराब स्टॉक में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं," and that is how we would make money. Okay, so that is also one style. Yeah, but again, see, kind of people look up to us, kind of a thing. So that is
True.
where I would suggest, and this is what we follow as well. Okay,
True.
so I would suggest invest into the good sector, the leaders which are well managed, kind of thing.
Okay. And I always see you have some preference towards MNCs in this theme. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you like them more?
Yeah. So unfortunately, it is no biasness that okay, MNCs are better kind of thing. But the philosophy that we follow, say suppose we do not invest into companies which have got less than 40, 50, in
Okay.
fact 50% promoter holding, they have certain return ratios, cash on their balance sheet. So some of the other the MNCs for, and of course they have a certain kind of a, because of the global parentage, yeah, they have a lot
Hmm.
of advantage kind of thing, yeah, the
Hmm.
know-how, technical know-how, that is what they like. See, in case of a pharma, I would not prefer MNC pharmas because they do not launch a lot
Hmm.
many products out here. Yeah, but in case of engineering capital goods, in fact, now all of them want to make India as the base. Okay, so because see,
Okay.
right now you see the power costs have gone up by 2x, 3x,
Hmm.
5x,
Hmm.
kind of depending upon the
Which all
country.
companies doing that as per you, Nishit? I heard last time you said Schaeffler is doing it. They're making India as a capital.
Yeah, Schaeffler is doing it, KSB is doing it, then Orient Tree Factories is doing RHI. That they are
Okay.
yeah, so a lot many ABB, Siemens, Honeywells of the world, all of them are
Hmm.
kind of see because one, of course, labor cost is always heavy
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
Western world kind of thing, and now because of the power and thing, and again, see, China plus one is also a very big theme, especially
Hmm.
what had happened over last 2 3 years because of the pandemic, continuous lockdown, and everything. That is where a lot of production will shift to countries like India. I am not saying that India would be the only beneficiary. There,
Hmm.
of course, we are getting very stiff competition from Far East countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, yeah, because
Hmm.
their productivity levels are very high, kind of thing. Countries like
Hmm.
Mexico, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But again, so even if we get a little bit, say suppose let's look at chemical space, only a
Hmm.
small bit of production shifted into India, and we saw such a big wealth creation. Okay,
Yes.
so same for
Yes.
manufacturing. Manufacturing, of course, is a much bigger piece globally. Yeah,
Hmm.
so even if
Hmm.
it's a small bit of that shifts to India, it will be
Hmm.
a big winner. Again, I would have loved India to do garner a lot of other market share, but yeah, see, there are certain things that are not in your hand or maybe in the government's hand as well. But whatever we get, it would be huge for us.
Okay. For the investors' homework, in this manufacturing space, which all companies which you look into it so that they can start doing their homework and deep research on those companies?
So I will talk about sectors and they can pick up the leaders among that
Okay.
sector. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So look at of course bearings is first.
Few
Okay.
examples. Yeah, there is a
Yeah,
disclosure. Few
bearings, of
examples.
course, look at Schaeffler, look at SKF, kind of a
Hmm.
thing. In pumps, look at KSB, okay.
Hmm.
Kirloskar is good. In welding,
Hmm.
look at ISAB, okay. Then there's another company out there in welding, okay. Look at that. Then which are the companies?
Pumps, you said
Pumps, yeah.
KSB.
Pumps, KSB, Kirloskar, okay.
Hmm.
The RHI, that is also looking
Hmm.
quite interesting. In bearings, of course, there are a couple of Indian names as well. Rolex, I think a new IP has also come up.
Hmm.
We have not looked at it, but
Yeah,
we'd like to look at it once it gets listed.
bearing cage company, right?
So yeah, these are the few of the things. Of course, look at companies which are like into home automation, Honeywell kind of companies. Okay, of course, large companies like ABB, Siemens. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
L&T we like. Of course,
Hmm.
we hold it for in the
Hmm.
large portfolio as well. Okay,
Hmm.
but again, it's a too big a thing. Of course, whenever
Hmm.
FIs want to invest, they would invest into large companies. Okay, so
Yes.
that is another stock wherein if you want to someone an FI wants to play the manufacturing team in India, so he would invest into large companies like L&T, ABB,
Hmm.
Siemens, Thermex of the world. Yeah, that are the few of the sectors or companies that I would strongly suggest one to look at.
Fantastic, Nishit.
Yeah,
I'm sure this will actually reduce lot of time for research for my viewers because
sure.
manufacturing as a theme, even I believe it has a multi-x opportunity, growth opportunity. Each individual investor need to look into it. You made their life simple so that they can actually, from this base, they can build up and they do that research. And you gave a lot of information, what to be done, what not to be done. Thanks a lot for taking out your time for preparing a presentation, especially for us, and delivering this content. It means a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Dhanyavadam, Allu.
ధన్యవాదములు. ఓకే.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
లెర్న్ తెలుగు.
Yeah. So of course, yeah. Thanks for this opportunity. It is always great to connect with you and your subscribers. And yeah, best of luck to all of them, kind of thing. And India is the place to be for next 5 years, 10 years. It's going to be a great story. So let's all of us benefit out of that. Thanks a lot, Sai.
ఇప్పుడు జరిగిన కాన్వర్సేషన్లోని ఇంపార్టెంట్ పాయింట్స్ని నేను సమ్మరీ రూపంలో మీకు తెలుగులో షేర్ చేస్తాను. ముందుగా ఎకానమీ ముందుకు మూవ్ అవ్వాలంటే, ఎస్పెషల్లీ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్లో ఎకానమీ ముందుకు మూవ్ అవ్వాలంటే ప్రైవేట్ క్యాపెక్స్ సైకిల్ స్టార్ట్ అవ్వాలి. మనం ప్రెజెంట్ చూసినట్టయితే చాలా కంపెనీస్ వాళ్ళు కెపాసిటీస్ని ఎక్స్పాండ్ చేస్తున్నట్టుగా మనం ఎక్స్చేంజ్ ఫైలింగ్స్ అయితే చూస్తున్నాం కదా. లాస్ట్ సైకిల్లో జరిగింది ఏంటంటే, లాస్ట్ సైకిల్లో కూడా మూమెంటం స్టార్ట్ అయింది మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్లో. బట్ కానీ అది సస్టైన్ అవ్వలేదు. ఎందుకంటే గవర్నమెంట్ నుంచి పుష్ వచ్చింది. గవర్నమెంట్ పుష్ వరకు ఓకే, బట్ ప్రైవేట్ క్యాపెక్స్ రాంది మనకి యాక్చువల్ సస్టైన్ అవ్వదన్నమాట. ఇప్పుడు మనకి ఏవైతే ఎక్స్చేంజ్ ఫైలింగ్స్ ఇవన్నీ కంటిన్యూస్గా వస్తున్నాయి, దాన్ని బట్టి మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు ప్రమోటర్స్లో చాలా కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ పెరిగింది అండ్ దే ఆర్ ఇన్వెస్టింగ్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ మనీ అని చెప్పి. సో వీఆర్ ఎట్ ది ఎర్లీ స్టేజ్ ఆఫ్ ప్రైవేట్ క్యాపెక్స్ సైకిల్. ప్రైవేట్ క్యాపెక్స్ సైకిల్ ఇలా జరిగినట్టయితే జాబ్స్ క్రియేట్ అవుతాయి. ఎకానమీ కూడా ఓవరాల్‌గా చాలా బాగా గ్రో అవుతది. అండ్ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సైడ్ మనం చూసినట్టయితే కరెంట్‌లీ మన జీడీపీలో 15% మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ నుంచి కంట్రిబ్యూషన్ వస్తుంది. గవర్నమెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా 2030 నాటికి ఈ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ కంట్రిబ్యూషన్‌ని 25%కి తీసుకెళ్లాలని అయితే ప్రయత్నిస్తుంది. విచ్ ఈస్ 5x గ్రోత్. అంటే నెక్స్ట్ 8 ఇయర్స్‌లోనే 5x గ్రోత్ అయితే చూడడం. 5x గ్రోత్ రాలేదు. 50% గ్రోత్ వచ్చిందనుకుందాం. ఈవెన్ 50% గ్రోత్ వచ్చినా కూడా విచ్ ఈస్ 2.5 టైమ్స్ గ్రోత్ కదా! 2.5 టైమ్స్ గ్రోత్ కూడా 8 ఇయర్స్‌లో తక్కువ కాదు. విచ్ ఈస్ రియల్లీ గుడ్ సీఏజీఆర్. సో దట్ ఈస్ ద ఆపర్చునిటీ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్‌లో మనం అయితే చూడబోతున్నాం. అందుకని మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ థీమ్‌లోని మేజర్ కంపెనీస్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో గుడ్ క్వాలిటీ కంపెనీస్ అన్నిటిలోని మనం మంచి గ్రోత్ అయితే చూడొచ్చు. లాస్ట్ సైకిల్‌లో చూసారు కదా! మీరు నిషిత్ షా గారి లాస్ట్ స్లైడ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ఆ స్లైడ్స్‌లో ఆయన చూపించారు. లాస్ట్ సైకిల్‌లో 2003-7 ఎరాలోని ఈ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ కంపెనీస్ ఎప్పుడైతే ర్యాలీ అయినప్పుడు షార్ట్ పీరియడ్‌లోనే 500%, 600% రిటర్న్స్, అది కూడా క్వాలిటీ కంపెనీస్ డెలివర్ చేసాయి. దట్ ఈస్ ద పొటెన్షియల్ దిస్ సెక్టర్ హ్యాస్. అండ్ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్లో మనం సూపర్ సైకిల్‌లో ఉన్నామని కనుక్కోవడానికి 8 మేజర్ ఫ్యాక్టర్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఒకటి గవర్నమెంట్ యొక్క పుష్. క్లియర్లీ గవర్నమెంట్ పిఎల్ఏ ద్వారా పుష్ అయితే చేస్తుంది కదా! ఈ గవర్నమెంట్ పుష్‌తోనే యాక్చువల్లీ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది ఈ గ్రోత్. నెక్స్ట్ మల్టీ గ్రోత్ ట్రిగర్స్ ఉండాలి. మనం ఇప్పుడు చూసినట్టయితే చైనా +1 ట్రిగర్ అండ్ ఇప్పుడు యూరోప్ +1 ట్రిగర్ కూడా మనకు వినబడుతుంది. ఇలాంటి డిఫరెంట్ ట్రిగర్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో ఈ ట్రిగర్స్ కూడా ఈ సెక్టర్‌లో చాలా మంచి గ్రోత్‌ని అయితే తీసుకొస్తాయి. థర్డ్, మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్ కన్సిస్టెంట్‌గా సూపర్ సైకిల్‌లో మనకు గ్రోత్ డెలివర్ చేయాలంటే ఎవరైతే ఇండస్ట్రియలిస్ట్ ఉంటారో వాళ్ళలోని కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ ఉండాలి. అది మనకి ఎర్లీ సైన్స్ అయితే కనబడుతున్నాయి. కెపాసిటీ ఎక్స్పాన్షన్స్ ద్వారా క్లియర్లీ ఎర్లీ సైన్స్ అయితే లాస్ట్ సైకిల్‌లోని ప్రైవేట్ ప్లేయర్స్ ఎవ్వరు కెపాసిటీ ఎక్స్పాన్షన్‌కి అయితే అసలు ఇంట్రెస్ట్ చూపించలేదు. గవర్నమెంట్ నుంచి ఎంత పుష్ వచ్చినా కూడా ప్రైవేట్ ప్లేయర్స్ ఆ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ చూపించినంత వరకు యాక్చువల్లీ మనం మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్‌లో ఆ సూపర్ సైకిల్ అయితే చూడం. బట్ ఇప్పుడైతే మనకు ఆ ఎర్లీ సైన్స్ అయితే క్లియర్‌గా కనబడుతున్నాయి. నెక్స్ట్ లాస్ట్ 10 ఇయర్స్‌లోని ఈ సెక్టర్ పర్ఫార్మ్ చేయకపోయేసరికి ఇండస్ట్రీ కన్సాలిడేట్ అయిపోయింది. కన్సాలిడేట్ అయిపోవడం వల్ల వచ్చే అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఏంటంటే కొంతమంది ప్లేయర్సే మిగులుతారు కదా! అండ్ ఈ కొంతమంది ప్లేయర్స్ మెజారిటీ ఆఫ్ ది మార్కెట్ షేర్‌ని గ్రాబ్ చేయగలుగుతారు. అండ్ ఈ సూపర్ సైకిల్‌లో ఎర్లీ గ్రోత్‌ని వీళ్ళే ఎన్కాష్ చేసుకుంటారు. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ పాయింట్, కెపాసిటీ యూటిలైజేషన్ లెవెల్ ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ కనబడుతున్నట్టయితే దెన్ యాక్చువల్లీ ఎప్పుడైతే కెపాసిటీ యూటిలైజేషన్ లెవెల్ బాగా పీక్ వచ్చినప్పుడే కదా న్యూ కెపాసిటీని యాడ్ చేస్తారు. ఓవరాల్‌గా మనం చూసినట్టయితే చాలా ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ సైన్స్ అయితే మనకు కనబడుతున్నాయి. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ట్రిగర్, ఎప్పుడైనా సూపర్ సైకిల్ స్టార్ట్ అయినప్పుడు బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్స్ చాలా లైట్‌గా ఉంటాయి. ఎవరైతే కీ ప్లేయర్స్ ఉంటారో అంటే చిన్న చిన్న కంపెనీస్ అన్నీ వెళ్ళిపోతాయి కదా! మార్కెట్ నుంచి. కీ ప్లేయర్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉంటారో వాళ్ళ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్స్ క్లీన్ అయిపోయి లైట్ అంటే లిటిల్ డెట్‌తోని కానీ లేకపోతే డెట్ ఫ్రీ కంపెనీస్‌గా కానీ రన్ అవుతుంటాయి. బట్ వీళ్ళు కెపాసిటీ ఎక్స్పాన్షన్ జరిగే కొద్దీ ఏం జరుగుతుందంటే డెట్ పెరిగిపోద్ది. ఎనీవేస్ పీక్ అయినప్పుడు అది జరుగుతుంది. బట్ సూపర్ సైకిల్ స్టార్ట్ అయ్యేటప్పుడు డెట్ లెవెల్ అయితే చాలా తక్కువగా ఉంటుంది. మనం క్రెడిట్ గ్రోత్ లాస్ట్ 3-4 ఇయర్స్‌లో చూసినా ఈవెన్ బ్యాంక్ క్రెడిట్ నెంబర్‌లో మనం యాక్చువల్లీ బ్యాంక్స్‌లోనే ఒక వరీ ఫ్యాక్టర్‌ని కూడా మనం విన్నాం కదా లాస్ట్ ఇయర్. ఏంటంటే చాలా కంపెనీస్ వాళ్ళ డెట్స్ అయితే క్లియర్ చేస్తున్నాయి. సో డెట్ క్లియర్ చేయడం వల్ల ఏమవుతుంది, వాళ్ళు యాక్చువల్లీ ఇంకొంచెం లివరేజ్ చేయడానికి పొటెన్షియల్ అయితే పెరుగుతుంది. అండ్ ఇంకొకటి బ్యాంక్ క్రెడిట్ గ్రోత్ కూడా వన్ ఆఫ్ ది ట్రిగర్ అనమాట. కరెంట్లీ బ్యాంక్ క్రెడిట్ గ్రోత్ కూడా మనకి బౌన్స్ బ్యాక్ అవుతున్నట్టుగా అయితే క్లియర్లీ సైన్ కనబడుతుంది. సో ఈ 8 సైన్స్ బట్టి మనకి మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్‌లోని సూపర్ సైకిల్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుందా లేదా అన్నది మనకైతే తెలుస్తుంది. కరెంట్లీ 8 సైకిల్స్‌లో చాలా వరకు మనకి టిక్సే కనబడుతున్నాయి కాబట్టి విల్ బీ ఎట్ ఎర్లీ స్టేజ్ ఆఫ్ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్‌లో సూపర్ సైకిల్‌లో ఉన్నట్టుగా మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. అండ్ ఈ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ సెక్టర్ ఎర్లీ స్టేజ్ ఆఫ్ సూపర్ సైకిల్‌లో ఉన్నదనడానికి మనకి మల్టిపుల్ ట్రిగర్స్ కనబడుతున్నా కూడా కొన్ని కన్సర్న్స్ అయితే ఉన్నాయి. వాటిని కూడా మనం దృష్టిలో పెట్టుకోవాలని నిషిత్ షా గారు చెప్తున్నారు. ఒకటి, యూఎస్, యూరోప్‌లోని ఏదైతే ఎకనామిక్ క్రైసిస్ నడుస్తుందో దాని యొక్క ఇంపాక్ట్ మన మీద కూడా పడవచ్చు. అది యాక్చువల్లీ వాళ్ళ మీద ఇంపాక్ట్ ఎక్కువగా ఉన్నట్టయితే ఈ గ్రోత్ ఏదైతే చూడబోతుందో దాని మీద నెగిటివ్ ట్రిగర్ అయితే మనకు ఉంటుంది. అండ్ అలాగే ఇన్ఫ్లేషన్ పెరగడంతోని మనం బ్యాంక్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ రేట్లు పెరగడం చూస్తున్నాం కదా! ఇంట్రెస్ట్ రేట్లు ఒక లెవెల్ వరకు ఓకే. బట్ అబ్నార్మల్‌గా పెరిగిపోయాయి అనుకోండి, మెజారిటీ ఆఫ్ ది మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ ఆర్ క్యాపెక్స్ సైకిల్ జరిగేదంతా బ్యాంక్స్ యొక్క క్రెడిట్ మీద డిపెండ్ అయి ఉంటుంది. సో ఇంట్రెస్ట్ రేట్లు బాగా పెరిగిపోయినట్టయితే ఈ గ్రోత్ మీద నెగిటివ్ ఇంపాక్ట్ అయితే చూపిస్తాయి. అండ్ అలాగే ఏదైతే కమోడిటీ ప్రైసెస్ ఉన్నాయో కమోడిటీ ప్రైసెస్ కూడా కంట్రోల్‌లో ఉండాలి. చీప్‌గా లేకపోయినా అట్లీస్ట్ కంట్రోల్‌లో అయితే ఉండాలి. బట్ కమోడిటీ ప్రైసెస్ అబ్నార్మల్‌గా పెరిగిపోయాయి అనుకోండి, అగైన్ ఈ గ్రోత్ మీద అయితే నెగిటివ్ ఇంపాక్ట్ అయితే క్రియేట్ చేస్తుంది. సో ఈ కన్సర్న్స్‌ని కూడా మనం ట్రాక్ చేయాల్సి ఉంటుందని చెప్తున్నారు. అండ్ కమింగ్ టు మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ థీమ్‌లో నిషిత్ షా గారు ఏ స్టాక్స్ మీద పాజిటివ్‌గా ఉన్నారో ఆయన షేర్ చేస్తారు, మీరు వినే ఉంటారు. కాకపోతే ఒక విషయం చెప్తాను, కన్విక్షన్ లేకుండా ఎక్కడ ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయొద్దు. సో మీరు వాటిని ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కింద లెర్నింగ్ కింద తీసుకుని దాని మీద ఫర్దర్ మీరు రీసెర్చ్ చేయడానికి ప్రయత్నించండి. రీసెర్చ్ చేసిన తర్వాత మీకు కూడా ఆ బిజినెస్ మీద కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ వచ్చి క్లియర్గా అర్థమైనప్పుడు డెసిషన్ తీసుకున్నట్టయితే అప్పుడే మనం డబ్బులు సంపాదిస్తాం. ఎందుకంటే మధ్యలో వచ్చి వాలటాలిటీకి తట్టుకోవాలంటే మనకు ఆ కన్విక్షన్ ఉండాలి బిజినెస్ మీద. సో ఆ కన్విక్షన్ పెంచుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నించండి. ఐ హోప్ ఈ వీడియోలో మీకు చాలా వరకు అంటే మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ యాజ్ ఎ థీమ్ వాస్ట్ థీమ్ కాబట్టి చాలా వరకు ఆ వర్క్‌ని అయితే సింప్లిఫై చేయగలిగామని అనుకున్నాను. ఇక్కడి నుంచి మీరు ఫర్దర్‌గా వర్క్ చేసి బిల్డ్ చేయడానికి ప్రయత్నించండి. సో దట్ యాక్చువల్లీ ఈ థీమ్‌లో మీరు ప్లే చేయడానికి, సూపర్ సైకిల్‌లో మీరు ప్లే చేయడానికి అయితే హెల్ప్‌ఫుల్ అవుతది. నేను సాయి కృష్ణపత్రి మరొక ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ వీడియోతో మీ ముందుకు వస్తాను. ఈ వీడియోని లైక్ చేయనట్టయితే తప్పకుండా లైక్ చేయండి. ఛానెల్ సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేయనట్టయితే ఇక్కడ ఛానల్ లోగో మీద క్లిక్ చేసి ఛానల్ సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేయండి. అండ్ పక్కన బెల్ ఐకాన్‌లో ఆల్ నోటిఫికేషన్స్ యాక్టివేట్ చేసుకోండి. అండ్ అలాగే మన ఛానల్‌లో వేరియస్ అదర్ ఎక్స్పర్ట్స్‌ని కూడా ప్రీవియస్‌గా ఇంటర్వ్యూ చేసాం. అవి చూడనట్టయితే కంప్లీట్ ప్లేలిస్ట్ మీకు ఇక్కడ ఎండ్ కార్డ్‌లో వస్తది. డూ చెక్ ఇట్ ఔట్.